Got a pretty good subsidy. Pretty good subsidy. Ah, shucks. Oh, boy. Okay.
Okay, we may begin.
Okay. We got a quorum?
I would
Yeah,
like
we
to call
do.
to order. Let me call to order the meeting of the Insurance Benefits and Ledge Committee for Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021.
Okay. This meeting is being conducted virtually, so I'll do a roll call of the trustees to confirm attendance. Mr. Knox,
Good morning, I'm here.
Mr. Santos. Mr. Santos,
Good morning.
Miss Gray,
Good morning, everybody.
Mr. Bernstein,
Good morning.
Mr. Oakham,
I'm here. Thank you. Good morning.
Mr. Moore,
I'm here.
Mr. Kehoe,
Present.
Miss Zapanta, Mr. Pryor, Mr. Harris, Chair Robbins.
I'm here.
Staff participating in the meeting includes CEO Santos Kryman, Deputy CEO Louis Lugo, AEOs JJ Popowich and Laura Guglielmo, Chief Counsel Stephen Rice, Legislative Affairs Officer Barry Liu, from Retiree Healthcare, Cassandra Smith, Director, and Kathy Magida, consultants Stephen Murphy, Paul Sadro, Richard Ward, Michael Zito, Stephanie Messier from Siegel. Trustees, please use the Zoom chat option to be placed in queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute your mics until you are ready to speak, and we may now proceed with the agenda.
Thank you very much, Terry. Item number 1, approval of the minutes of the October 6, 2021 meeting. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second,
Are there any changes, amendments? Hearing none. You want to call the roll?
Ms. Gray,
yes.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Chair Robbins.
I'm an aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
We're on item 2, public comment. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address the committee, Terry?
I have nothing.
And I have nothing. We can move on to item 3A, the engagement report for October 2021. Mr. Liu, it's all yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Robbins and committee trustees. Some items of interest for you this month. So you may recall last month I reported on the 2021 trustee report on Social Security, and I think Mr. Robbins made a good point about how sometimes alarmist headlines, are had regarding that report. Well, the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College actually conducted a study last year about the report about how media coverage of it can affect worker behavior, and essentially found that depending on what the headlines are and how it describes the report, it could cause people to claim benefits earlier than what they would normally claim because of fear that if there were changes to the program, if they can claim earlier and be in the program, they may be unaffected by that. So those study finds that people may tend to claim benefits a year earlier, but at the same time, they may not change their behavior in terms of saving more to make up for that gap in claiming earlier benefits. So definitely there's some there could be some effect in how media reports may be a bit alarmist sometimes, and they change worker behavior as far as how early they claim their benefits. And then as far as Social Security's COLA is concerned, this year they've announced a 5.9% increase to begin in 2022. And so just to put that in the context, for the last 10 years, COLAs have averaged 1.9%. And the last time the COLA was more than 5% was 5.8 back in 2008, around the Great Recession. But then there were also about 3 years in which people have gotten zero COLAs. That was in 2009, 2010, and 2015. And then the largest increase that they've got in recent history was 14.3% back in 1980.
Will this apply to PEPRA employees for the maximum pensionable amount?
Yeah, so that increase for the PEPRA compensation limit is based on a Social Security limits. So I can't recall exactly which CPI measure it deals with, but I don't know if it's the same CPI index for urban wage earners, but definitely.
Does our board adopt what that limits are? Is that something that we've been doing? How are we tracking that and monitoring those limits?
There's no need to adopt that, because this is basically it's very similar to the change in the federal limit, the compensation limit. For example, the IRS just increases it each year. So this limit, it's increased each year, but the California Actuarial Advisory Panel does the calculation for all 20 systems, just based on concerns in the past that people might have rounding differences to cause different calculations. So each year they issue an advisory letter, which I guess now that we're coming towards the end of the year, we should be expecting one soon that will announce what the 2022 PEPRA compensation limit will be.
Got it. And then we take that and it's just automatically accepted. That's what we run with.
Right. I mean, we would look at it and make sure it's reasonable, and then it gets implemented into our systems and make sure that it's implemented and enforced.
Okay, but there's no formal adoption by the board or acceptance like we do. I mean, it's we accept the CPI numbers, which are pretty much prescribed by law, but we do it anyways. Is there any reason why why the Board of Retirement doesn't adopt the actuarial numbers?
Well, unlike the regular COLA, the law doesn't say anything about the board needing to adopt it. So essentially, it says here's a limit, here's how it will be increased each year. And so, like I said, the actuarial advisory panel simply does it because of rounding errors if 20 different people were to do this.
Okay, so CPI is specified in the law that needs to be adopted by individual plans, but this doesn't. And then we, as the 1937 Act systems, have all ultimately used this actuary that will put together the numbers, and then that's what we're running with on a year-by-year basis. Okay, and then my last thing is are those numbers available, easy to find on the LACERA website?
As far as you mean the annual compensation numbers? I haven't looked at where they are on the website. I can take a look.
Nodding. JD, was that?
Yes, that was me nodding to that. Yes, to that question. I believe they are, and I'll confirm that before the end of this meeting.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I just want to make sure it's easy for folks, because I did a briefing with the people that work for me the other day, and I realized that half of the people in the room were PEPRA employees, and it was a little shocking to me on that, where I'm literally having to explain it totally different between two separate groups in the room, and I think we're going to see that increase. And as that happens, people are going to start paying attention to those numbers. So sorry to turn this into a PEPRA discussion, but I think it's important in relation to the Social Security increase. So thank you very much.
Chair Robin,
If I can, I'm sorry.
just to add to what Mr. Luce said, the limit under PEPRA is self-executing. There's no need for board action. The statute is mandatory, and the law is what it is. The CPI limit that's in effect under PEPRA is the CPI for all urban consumers, U.S. city average. So it's a little bit different than the CPI that's referred to here in the engagement report.
And it is relatively easy to find if you search, if you go to the plan center for each of the PEPRA plans, it's pretty prominent, and it's under compensation limits. There's actually a little box when you go on click on compensation limits that will show you what the compensation limit is for the current year.
Thank you.
Okay,
Moving
thank you.
along.
Yeah, so the next item.
Can I ask one question very quickly? I'm sorry. And I guess it would be to JJ and Luis. with respect to the CPI and, the change in Social Security's possible COLA, I was speaking with some retirees yesterday, and they are up in arms. So can we put in our newsletter or an explanation of the Social Security increase versus LACERA, and include what happens with each individual plan? The people I was speaking with are retirees in Plan A. However, there are other retirees, and they would really need to know because everyone is confused.
Sure, we can do that. I think the newsletter is almost done. I don't know if I can get it in this next newsletter. I'll have to double check, but if not, we'll get it in as quickly as we can. And we'll
Okay.
try and put a story on lacera.com as well.
Okay, yeah, they're counting every dime, so it's important.
So basically they're looking for, Ms. Gray, you're looking for a explanation of how the COLA works and how it increases.
And what they're getting this year,
Mhm.
possibly. And are they also going to get the Social Security increase if they're receiving Social Security? Or will it be offset because of WEP?
Okay, I'll see what we can do. We'll have to figure out how we word that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Les, I've got a question. Our max COLA is 3%, is that correct? And then anything above that is put into a holding tank. And then Social Security has nothing to do what our raise is that correct?
Correct.
No, it's 2%. 2% is the max, and then put in, unless you're Plan A, then it's 3%, and the
3% and 3% in A, Sean?
Yeah, and Social Security does impact the maximum pensionable limit for PEPRA employees. So it is something that we should be paying attention to in this board.
Can you explain that to me, how that works, somebody?
I'll
How does
hand it
it-
over to staff now, because
Yeah, how does it
otherwise I'm
impact-
gonna start having to request.
how does it impact Social Security?
So Social Security, when PEPRA was originally passed, there was wording in the legislation that tied the initial increase to Social Security, and then thereafter to the CPI number that we talked about earlier today. And so that's why that CPI number is so important. As far as the other commentary on COLA, Mr. Keogh is absolutely right. For Plan A, the max is 3. For the rest of the plans, the max is 2%.
And then for the other plans also, do you put the difference, in
Yes,
a holding tank for them?
We do. That's the COLA accumulation bank. So if the COLA increase is greater than the max, then it goes into that bank, which can be used for years when the amount is lower than the max.
Okay, thank you.
So JJ, that went over my head originally when you mentioned it, but because I thought it was Social Security increase. So that's no longer part of PEPRA. It's tied into the CPI All Cities Index.
Yeah, from what I recall, and Mr. Rice, correct me if I'm wrong, but originally it was connected to a Social Security number.
Yeah.
And then after that, it said it's a percentage of increase, I think, of this CPI. Mr. Rice or Barry, am I getting that?
Yeah, so originally the comment was based on the taxable wage base under Social Security. In other words, that's the base on which FICA tax is paid. So whatever that number was back in 2013, that was the starting number. And then each year the CPI number will increase that limit.
Okay.
Now,
That's right.
let me ask this question, Sean, because I haven't gotten the answer. Does the PEPRA affect the increase? Like there's going to be a 5.8% increase in Social Security. Does that impact that five, particularly for retired people? Does that impact that 5.8% for somebody who is presently receiving Social Security?
Yeah, if there is a plan member who's receiving Social Security, which I think is probably pretty small with LACERA plans, then yeah, they would get that benefit as well. But so, okay, so it sounds like that's good because I just learned something new right now. So it is not tied into Social Security. It is tied into the CPI All Cities Index for that.
Okay.
The maximum pensionable limit under 20 PEPRA goes up based upon the CPI numbers. Okay, that's a lot better than tying it into Social Security.
I don't think that's correct, Sean. I wrote about this last month in my article, and I pulled the information off of LACERA documents. The maximum amount of a pension under PEPR is based on a percentage of the maximum Social Security benefit that anyone from Social Security can draw. When Social Security gets an increase, that number obviously goes up. All of our people out there should be thrilled to death that Social Security is going up 5.9%. Because it elevates the ceiling on what the maximum Social Security benefit is. But my understanding is the maximum allowable pension under PEPRA is a percentage of the maximum Social Security benefit. And I just forget what that number is right now. And I wrote about it a month ago, and I took that information right off the PEPRA or right off the LACERA website. Maybe somebody there's got that information. Steve, you're looking like maybe you got it.
You're correct, Chair Robbins. It is tied to the Social Security max, and it's 100% for certain members and 120% for other members, and that limit's going to change over time, and then that limit is adjusted by the CPI urban amount as it changes.
So not Social Security increases. So it was set in stone in 2013. And then that increases are going up based upon CPI all cities.
Correct. PEPRA says it's that amount on January 1, 2013, and then that's adjusted by the CPI for all urban consumers, all cities index.
Okay.
So the difference between that 5.9 and 2 or 3% goes into an account for the future. Is that correct, Steve?
No, that's something different. We're just talking about the limit of pensionable compensation for PEPRA members. There's no bank for that adjustment. There's no adjustment bank.
Okay, all right. It's just for 2 and 3%, and if it's 4%, then if you get 3, you bank a percentage. If you get 2, you bank 2%. Correct.
Once someone has retired, then the COLA bank kicks in.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, thank you.
And thank you to staff for clearing that up, because I definitely learned something new today. I thought it was tied into Social Security increases from 2013 forward. So it's good to know that that's tied into CPI. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just tell Ms. Gray to tell her Plan A friends to take a chill pill. They're not even in this conversation. It's like, what is wrong with you folks? You're okay, you know?
Hey, he's 78 years old and just counting those pennies as he rakes them in.
Yeah, well, like I said, if you're in Plan A, none of this conversation even applies.
A retired LASD lieutenant, come on.
Well, I know how nuts they can be, so yeah, let's move on, but yeah, tell me to chill out.
Hey, Vivian, that's young, 78.
Yes.
Mr. Robbins, I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Thank you. I'm going to complicate matters a little bit here, if I understand this correctly. So the fact that the Social Security benefit has been increased by 5% of the amounts, how does that impact? I guess that this question is for Mr. Liu. Does that increase, does that impact the Social Security amount per web? In other words, the more you hire retirement benefit reduces the amount of the Social Security benefit. Do you understand my question?
I think I know what you're getting at. So the web basically, you could think of this way, that the web affects what your starting amount is when you retire, because the web will hit you from day one. So once that starting amount, that starting Social Security benefit has been established, then it will be subject to these COLAs over the years. So that the WEP isn't really, as maybe you're thinking, being affected today, but it established your initial base Social Security benefit. And then that benefit will get these COLA increases over the years.
Got it. Thank you.
I'm just happy when the increase in Social Security offsets my Part B premium increase. That's all I'm happy about. So, and a lot of people are in that same boat. So.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think this was a very interesting, robust discussion on Social Security and COLAs. But looking at North Carolina state pension, unfortunately, they don't get a COLA. So I think a lot of members are looking at the Social Security COLA of 5.9% and wondering what they're going to get. Their COLA is actually given at the pleasure of the state legislature. So they've not really had an increased benefit in the last 12 years. And so, they have about 234,000 retirees with an average benefit about $21,000. And according to, I think, a representative from the retiree group, they're only getting about 84 cents to the dollar. So, inflation has sort of eroded that purchasing power. So they're definitely asking for just a 2% increase against what they see as a backdrop of an $8 billion budget surplus that the legislature has. And then the next item is a nice, statistic. It's about total U.S. retirement assets. So according to the Investment Company Institute's quarterly data, as of June 30th, 2021, there's $37.2 trillion in retirement assets. And so that's up from 4.8% from 3 months ago, but up 20% compared to the same period last year, June 30th, 2020. And so you can see the breakdown there. There's about 7.5 trillion in government DB plans, 3.5 trillion in private sector DB plans, and then 10.4 trillion in DC plans. So DB plans in total still exceed, how much is in DC plans. But as we all know, at least in the private sector, DB plans are, kind of slowly becoming extinct. So sure, at some point, the amount of the DC plans will exceed what's in the DB plans. And then some more statistics about state and local government employment. NASRA, does their periodic analysis of Bureau of Labor Statistics. So they found that in September of 2021, governments have lost 123,000 jobs compared to the private sector loss of 217,000 jobs. But if you compare it to last year, around February 2020, state and local governments have lost about 874,000 jobs. And so if you look at the chart that they put out here, it's about employment changes relative to 2007. So you can see right around when the Great Recession started, state and local governments tend to lag the private sector in terms of when job losses occurred, but also in terms of when recovery happens. So as you can see, currently, it's just below what the 2007 employment numbers were. And then lastly, an interesting item from the Ohio State Teachers Retirement System. Apparently, the Ohio State Auditor has announced that they'll be doing a special audit of the system. This was due to numerous complaints that they received due to a report that was issued by a company that was hired by their Retired Teachers Association that sort of, crowdsource or raise money to for this audit of the system. Or it's more, from what I'm reading, it's not a financial audit that they've done, but more of an operational compliance, review of what the teacher retirement system has been doing. So the report talks a lot about a lack of transparency and monitoring regarding the system. So and apparently that has caused enough complaints to the Ohio State Auditor that they've decided that there's a reasonable basis for them to conduct a special audit on this. So it'd be interesting to see, how this turns out. Obviously, the teacher retirement system has rejected all of these as mistakes and unsupported allegations. So again, it'll be interesting to see how these turn out. So that concludes my report. I'm happy for any further questions.
Any more questions? Thank you, Barry. Was as you stated, a robust discussion on everybody's favorite subject, Social Security and Medicare, I guess, is right there with it. We're on to item B, staff activities report for October. Cassandra.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Just real quick, we have a final update of our 2019-2020 retiree drug subsidy subsidies that we received for that plan year. It was just over 12.1 million. And that's it.
Good, good. Any questions?
I have one quick question for
Yeah.
retiree healthcare. I know we're kind of getting back to work. A lot of employee organizations are starting to have meetings, with social distancing at parks or whatever. Are we going to do our retiree healthcare? What do we call it? A healthcare fair?
The wellness.
The wellness fair. I was speaking to some members and I was talking about the fact that we do this twice a year and, to keep looking at your newsletter or our, webpage. And I hope I didn't say the wrong thing. So I don't want people looking forward to our wellness fair if we're not going to do it anymore.
I think if it continues going the way that it has, some companies are going back. We're starting to see more and more people going back in social settings. Normally have it like in April. So right now it looks pretty good that we may be able to go ahead and have it this time, unless something changes again.
Mm-hmm. And would we be able to have representatives from the various insurance providers and other health providers? Recently, I did see a health fair put on by Healthcare Partner, Providence Health Association, and they had, a lot of the providers and service people, and there were a lot of people there. I was really surprised. So I was wondering if we were going to do it again, and I think that we should.
Yeah, we will. I just need to make sure that all the carriers are allowing them to travel again and do things, but definitely if it continues the method that it's been going, we should be fine.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I guess we're on to item C, claims experience. Mr. Murphy, you're up.
I am up and recognizing we're coming up to a hard stop. I'll be extremely brief. No major updates or insights from the experience report, so it's there for your reference. A couple points of item, if I can, if we can transit. We've just received the renewals for the 2022-2023 plan year, so we're beginning that process now. We typically work with staff through January to negotiate those with your vendor partners and expect to have that ready for presentation to the committee in February. And that'll be my report on that one. We can transition to federal legislation, a couple quick updates. So based on the discussion earlier this morning regarding the Medicare or COLA increase for Social Security, again, the Medicare Part B premium increase has not been announced yet, but it's anticipated to increase to standard rate of $158.50, which is about a 6.7% increase over the current level. So again, what you get in one hand, it gets taken away in the other. And so you may have seen in the paper today, the Senate has come to at least a proposal to kind of manage prescription drug costs for Medicare into the future, but it's no guarantee this will pass the Senate, and it is also incongruent with what's been done in the House so far. So I think still a lot of activity in DC to go forward, and we'll just keep you apprised of that, but that's the information we have at this point.
Any questions for Steve? Seeing none. So you basically finished, Steve?
I'm finished.
So we're now on to item 4, items for staff review.
I have nothing.
Good of the order. If anyone's got anything for good of the order, just, raise your hand and I'll call on you.
Chair Robbins, just we'll start BOR 10 minutes after you close.
Okay, Mr. Oakham.
Yeah, go next door.
I feel something, whatever it is, but
Cassandra,
I have nothing.
Mr. Knox, I'll just call on people. Nothing? Laura, anything? JJ,
Nothing, thank you.
Vivian? Alan? Sean?
Nothing, thank you.
Louis?
Nothing.
Good morning, everyone. Nothing otherwise.
Mr. Moore? Herman?
Thank you. No.
JP?
I got about a 20-minute prepared presentation, but I'll pass on it now.
Okay. If you make it 10, we got time. So Cassandra, nothing? Mr. Kryman?
Nothing for me.
Anybody else? I too have nothing. So I guess with that, I'll accept the motion to adjourn and the Board of Retirement meeting will start in 10 minutes. Give me a motion, somebody.
So moved.
We're adjourned.